Welcome back, everybody, to my Star Wars Unlimited card review series. This is the series where I'm rating every single Jump to Lightspeed card from 1 star to 5 stars. And quickly, in case you've missed all the other entries, 5-star cards, these are meta-defining cards. 4-star cards are really good cards. 3-star cards, they're standalone good cards, but really excel in certain metas. 2-star cards, these cards are cards that may have potential, people might be trying out, or sideboard at best cards. There are some cards that are 2 stars that are extremely good, but only against one particular matchup, and they typically are only sideboarded. And 1-star cards. These are cards that are just plain old bad, and I really don't see seeing play. Sometimes 1-star cards might be like, in 6 sets, they're going to be good, but we'll have to see. Now on to the card reviews. First up, we have the Rampart. It's a 2-cost 3/3 underworld vehicle transport. 3/3 stats in space are really good. We haven't seen a 3/3 in space, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we've seen a true 3/3 in space. We've seen Green Squadron A-Wing, which is a 1/3 raid 2. So it's like kind of a 3/3. If you squint hard enough, I kind of do treat it as a 3/3 most times if I'm running it. The problem with Rampart, and maybe I'm missing something, so if I'm missing something, please leave a comment below telling me that I'm completely off on this card, because I've been told that I'm, like, completely missing here. The ability can't be blanked because it's a villainy card, so you can't play it in Kaz. This card, it just doesn't actually do anything until at least turn 3. On turn 1, you play it, and it comes in exhausted as a 3/3. If you're playing Cad Bane, you get the Underworld, so you get to do a ping, so that's good. Turn 2, it can't ready during the regroup phase, so it didn't ready, so now you just have a 3/3 exhausted unit. And if you buff it that turn, then it can ready on the next regroup phase. So it won't be ready until turn 3. And by turn 3, this should be dead. It's like a 3/3 that comes in free, no good to me, deaded, or something like that. And yes, I do know that Cad Bane can get the ping. It has some underworld synergy with McClunky, but I just don't know if you're going to be wanting to run a 3/3 don't turn on until you have like a really specific thing to do by turn 3, and that's only if you can give it 4 power by turn 3. I was told that a 3/3 in space is too good, that somebody's going to figure out a way to crack it, and I kind of hope they do, because I really just don't see the Rampart, like, I don't see where we're going with this, but I just don't feel it. Like, if you're gonna have such a downside that this doesn't turn on till turn 3, make this card kind of insane. Make it like a 3/5 that can't ready until it has 4 power, or like a 2/5. I don't know if that would have been that broken, like it might have been. I haven't put much thought into it, but a 3/3, it's essentially like a 4 resource turn, like a 4 resource play. So I think the Rampart's really bad. I think it's a 1-star card, unless I'm just completely missing something. Like, even Cad Bane would probably just want to run 2/3 Underworld spaceship that pings a unit when played. The Rampart, I don't see it. Please, if you see something I'm missing, tell me. 1-star. On a better note, the next card is Zygerrian Starhopper. 2-cost 2/3 Underworld vehicle fighter, so it has really good traits. When defeated, deal 2 indirect damage to a player. I think Django and the new Boba Fett want to run this card. Dealing the 2 indirect damage in Django, that's non-combat damage. Yes, your opponent gets to choose, but if they choose their only unit that's readied because they don't want to put the indirect damage on their base, well, you can exhaust that unit and then you don't have to worry about it. And then in Boba, it's a basically when defeated, deal 3 indirect damage. I think it's just a solid card in both of those decks alone. If another yellow villain deck shows up, they might also want to run this card. 2/3 Underworld vehicle fighters. Like Cad Bane likes this card. It's an Underworld card. 2/3 deal indirect damage, and he's already kind of dealing like his own version of indirect damage. In Cad Bane, this is almost like a when played, deal 1 indirect damage, when defeated, deal 2. I just think this is a solid ass card. 4 stars. I think this is just a really good card. You're gonna see it all the time. So 4 stars. The next card is Contracted Jumpmaster. It's a 3-cost 2/4 Underworld vehicle transport with Sentinel. This card has really good traits, and it has Sentinel. We've seen a similar card to this in Black Sun Starfighter, which is a 3-cost 3/2 Sentinel with, I think, the same traits or similar traits. That might have been a fighter. The problem with Black Sun Starfighter was the 2 health was a liability. It essentially 1-for-1'd your opponent, but they kind of got to choose typically what ran into it, so it wasn't like that great. And typically it traded in with a 2-cost card. And that even saw play here and there. With Contracted Jumpmaster, it forces your opponent to kind of use 2 actions to take it out. Either they hit it with a 3-attack unit, probably suiciding into it, and then they have to hit it with like a ping effect from P38, or play P38 to ping this and then Tarkin Town it. And if your opponent uses their Tarkin Town on this, you're actually like kind of not that sad, right? Because they got through your Sentinel, but it soaked up their Tarkin Town and one of their P38 exhaust pings. If you need a Space Sentinel and you're running Yellow Villain, no, I think this comes in. And I think if you don't need a 2/4 3-cost Space Sentinel, it comes out. But it's a solid ass card when you need it. So I think this is a clear 3-star card. Next up, we have the Houndstooth. 3-cost 4/3 Underworld Vehicle Transport. With the effect, while attacking an exhausted unit that did not interplay this phase, this unit deals combat damage before the defender. So this card is like a really cool card. I'm not a big fan of the stats. 4/3 isn't that great, but the effect is really cool. It can deal with a lot of these 4 health space units really cleanly. I think like Cad Bane really likes this card. I don't think this fits into Jango or Boba Fett that well. But in Cad Bane, you play this, it deals 1 damage because it's an Underworld card. Your opponent has to trade into this, or else it just spirals out of control, because if they attack base, cool. They got their damage in, but you swung, you killed it, and you still get a Houndstooth, a 4/3 Houndstooth that can be piloted, it can be upgraded, it can be shielded. Star Saxon Yellow might just like this card as a cool base unit threat that can easily start taking care of multiple units unless dealt with. So I kind of like this card. I think it's a solid card. The 4/3 stat line makes me hesitant to give it the rating I'm going to give it, but I think it's a 3-star card. Again, solid card. If you need something that's a threat in space that can really like 2 or 3-for-1 your opponent if they don't take care of it, you put this puppy in. If you don't need it, if your opponent's playing on the ground or you're going up against like a control mirror, this card probably comes out. So solid card, 3 stars. And next up, we have a 3-cost 3/4 Mist Hunter. Underworld Vehicle Transport. On attack, if you played a Bounty Hunter or Pilot card this phase, you may draw a card. So notably, you can play the Bounty Hunter or Pilot as a unit or an upgrade. Typically, Bounty Hunters are Underworld, so this is going to synergize really, really well with Cad Bane, because if you play a Bounty Hunter upgrade to like Pilot Mist Hunter, you get the ping damage, because Cad Bane also says card, not unit. You get the ping damage, and then if you attack with the Mist Hunter, then you get to draw a card. So I think this card is kind of really, really good in Cad Bane, and is going to see play in a Cad Bane deck. If we see one, this goes in. Yellow Villain might just like this card over Houndstooth because the stat spread. I like 3/4s better. I'm not a big fan of 4/3s, so I personally would probably run Mist Hunter over Houndstooth myself. I like the draw a card effect a lot, and in Cad Bane, we've seen it run either Tarkin Town or Cad Blues have been running around. I think this is good in both of those decks. For me, Mist Hunter is a 3-star card, just like Houndstooth was. Solid ass card. If you need space presence, you put this in. If you don't, it comes out. A 3-cost 3/4 is really, really solid this set. The conditional draw a card on attack is really, really nice. And I like that it synergizes pretty well and easily in Cad Bane. So, 3 stars. Next up is Bossk, 4-cost 4/4 Underworld Bounty Hunter Pilot. And played as a unit, it has the on-attack ability, exhaust a defender and deal 1 damage to it. Its piloting effect is a 2-cost pilot. Whatever you pilot gets the on-attack effect, exhaust the defender and deal 1 damage to it. I kind of just don't like this card. We've seen the Jango deal damage exhausting be really good. But I don't know if I really want to be running a 4-cost 4/4 unit in my deck. And I don't think a 2-cost +2/+2 with the on-attack ability, exhaust the defender and deal 1 damage to it, is going to be like that great. If you're attacking into something with this, if it's smaller than you and you exhaust it, you kill it. If it's larger than you, you exhaust it and you've suicided your unit into it. And that kind of means you've used 2 cards to exhaust a big unit and deal some damage to it. When you could have just been running No Good to Me Dead, exhaust that unit from the start, 1 card for 1 card, like 1 exhaust over 2 turns. I personally just don't see where Bossk fits in anywhere. I really don't like him. The obvious synergy here is you pilot him on Houndstooth, and then if you claimed and you have the first action, you can attack into something, exhaust it with the effect, deal 1 extra damage to it. So it's kind of like a 3-2 in that regard. And you're dealing 7 damage to something. So like, I see where they were going with it. I do. I just personally think it's too cute. It's that specific combo is not going to go off that often. Is it going to, and is that effect going to even be like worth it when you do get it off? Bossk is a 1-star card. I don't see it. I think they're trying to get too cute. I like other pilots a lot more than I like Bossk. So Bossk is a 1-star card for me. Not seeing it. Next up is Moff Gideon, who's a 4-cost 5/4 Imperial official. With a really cool effect, when this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, each unit that opponent plays this phase costs 1 more. One, he has really good traits. Imperial official are good. And I think Moff Gideon has taught me that I really need to change as a person. Whenever I see red number larger than blue number, in my mind, I go, man, I wish that was the other way. Except 4 drops, 4 health kind of isn't that much of a downside, right? Most of the 3-cost cards we see are statted 3-5, 2-5, 3-4, because a lot of 4-3 stat line turn 2 plays get killed by 3-2 or 3-3 turn 1 plays. So the fact that we don't see a lot of 4-3s being played means Moff Gideon's 4 health isn't that big of a downside. Moff Gideon might stick on the board. If Moff Gideon hits a base, well, that's pretty damn good, because now you've essentially made it so any unit that player plays costs 1 more. And if they only had a 5-cost unit in hand and the rest of their hand's kind of weird, you kind of fucked them over. So that's kind of cool. The downside with Moff Gideon is I wish he was any other color but Cunning. Because if he was command, you could just run him with ECL and any leader, and he'd be really good because you could ECL him into like Tech or DJ and kill them. And then you wouldn't have, like, you would always have an answer to Tech DJ. It would live, so then your opponent would have to kill Moff Gideon. If they didn't, you hit base, and then you might spiral out of control because now their units cost 1 more, yada yada. The Imperial official trait are good traits, right? And I agree with you, they are good traits. We've seen Palpatine, who cares about the official trait, we've seen him play Cunning. And that's actually a really cool play line, because turn 2, you play Emperor Royal Guard. Turn 3, you put Moff Gideon behind it. Now, they have to deal with your Royal Guards. They probably can't get through them and kill Gideon in the same phase. So then you have Gideon on the next turn. He can either hit base and get his effect off, or he could kill Tech or DJ. I think he's a solid card in Palpatine Yellow. I just don't know if Palpatine's going to be wanting to play yellow this set. With the new bases released, I'm uncertain. We'll see if Palpatine, I think if Palpatine Yellow exists this set, I think Moff Gideon is running it. And I think it's a good card in it. I just don't know what other yellow villain decks are going to want to run Moff Gideon. If he was any other aspect, I think he would be a star higher for me. I think in Cunning villain, I think he's only a 3-star card, but I do see a lot of potential here. I think he's a good card. I think the 5/4 stat line is deceptively good. Good traits, amazing effect, a little slow at 4 resources, but I think at 4 resources you can get away with it if the effect is good enough, and his is. So Moff Gideon, 3 stars. Next up is another Boba Fett unit, 5-cost 5/4 shielded when played as a unit, which isn't that great. A 5-cost 5/4 do nothing is really not great. We're looking for good effects here. So let's see if the piloting ability makes up for it. And it's a 2-cost. When played as an upgrade, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. If attached unit is a transport, you may deal 2 damage instead. And it has the Underworld, Bounty Hunter, and Pilot trait. So, I mean, if you play this on Mist Hunter, it's pretty damn good, right? It would be a +2, +3, deal 2 damage. If Mist Hunter was ready, you get to attack with it and then draw a card. attaching its Fett's Fire Spray, also pretty good. And I've been bouncing back and forth on this, if this card is like a 2-star card or a 3-star card. I think a lot of people are going to try it out early to varying results. And then I think it's going to eventually like whimper out and be replaced by something else. And then I think like it might come back, because being able to deal 2 damage on turn 2 can kill a lot of turn 1 plays. If most people are playing 3/2s, this card is really good, because killing a 3/2 with your upgrade and then having a really buffed unit that you can attack with is extremely good. But if your opponents are playing 2/3s, this card is a lot worse, because you play the +2/+3, you don't kill their unit, and then they get to do whatever they want, and you kind of only did 2 damage, where you really didn't get to actually like kill the unit that you sent at it. This card is also like kind of good in Tarkin Town decks. If you play Boba Fett, even if it's not on a transport, you deal 1 damage to a unit, then you can Tarkin Town that unit. I see where he's good in Tarkin Town, and then later on in the game, if you just need a 5/4 resilient unit because it has shielded, I see that. And it's Underworld Bounty Hunter Pilot, so it's going to work in this Cad Bane deck that I'm formulating in my head that might not exist. So I think I'm going to begrudgingly give Boba Fett 3 stars. Would not surprise me if he goes down to 2 stars. I don't think he's any better than 3, though. So next, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to review 2 cards at the same time, because I think they both have the same rating for the same reason, and I think it's a pretty hot take, so get your commenting fingers ready. I think Techno Union Transport and Invincible are both 4-star cards, because they're both 5-cost space units that are pretty beefy, that can come out on turn 2 and count Dooku. So Techno Union Transport's a 5-cost 4/6 Separatist Vehicle Transport with shielded, and Invincible is a 6-cost 6/6 Separatist Vehicle Capital Ship with this unique text. If you control a unique Separatist card, this unit costs 1 less to play. So in Dooku, it costs 5. And when you deploy a leader, you may return a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less to its owner's hand, but I'm kind of ignoring that effect just for this rating. I was looking through Dooku, especially Dooku Yellow. I think the biggest issue was there were not enough 5-cost Separatist cards that you could reliably get a big unit out on turn 2 with Dooku. With both Techno Union Transport and Invincible, I think we're at a critical mass, because if you include the patrolling AAT and the B2 Legionaries, that's 4 5-cost cards that can come out on turn 2, so that's pretty reliable. And with Kijimi Patrollers, we now have another turn 1 play that can essentially be 2 units in 1. We've seen Confederate Courier, the event that makes 2 battle droids, and now Kijimi Patrollers. So that's 3 turn 1 plays, 4 turn 2 5-cost, but in Dooku 3-cost with an exploit plays. I think Dooku might be there this set. I really do. I think he was missing these 2 cards. And I've seen some people say like, oh, Invincible, a 6/6 on turn 2 in Dooku, that's just okay. In what world is a 6/6 unit on turn 2 in space just okay? Kaz is running a 4/5 with a huge downside for a turn 2 play. This is a 6/6. We've seen Ruthless Raiders come out with triple Dark Raid and be 5-star meta breaking cards in Django. Yes, I know that you would get the exhaust effect with it, and they come in ready. But on turn 3, when you would be doing that with Ruthless Raider anyway, Invincible's ready as a 6/6, and if you don't kill this fucker, it's not going back to hand, because with Ruthless Raider, you triple Dark Raid in Ruthless Raider, it does its stuff, it hits you for 6, it goes back to hand, you have to wait 2 turns to play it. In the meantime, Invincible, if not dealt with, has the potential to deal 18 damage. Techno Union Transport can do 12 damage and it's shielded. I just don't see a world where that just isn't mind-boggling. So I think Dooku Yellow is a real deck this set. This could be my biggest miss of the entire card review. But I think Dooku Yellow has something really special going this set. I think it was close last set. And I think last set, the devs were a little bit hesitant to print really competitively statted Separatist cards. I think This set, they got a little greedy with their Separatist cards. I'm pretty happy with this. I think Count Dooku Yellow sees play, and I think Invincible and Techno Union Transport are big players in that, and I would make them 4-star cards. And I'm going to go on record. I think these both could also be 5-star cards. I think they're that good. Even against Control, these are good. Because Control's big play is I claim turn 1, and then I'm going to Power of the Dark Side whatever you play turn 2. Well, with the units that I'm talking about, you play those out, you get 2 units on turn 1. And then on turn 2, when I exploit one of them in for Invincible, they can't Power of the Dark Side now. I get to attack for 6, or I can even claim and try and make my board spread out a little bit more, and then Control's just really screwed. So I think Count Dooku Yellow is a real powerful deck this set. I think being able to reliably get a bunch of turn 2 plays ahead of time is going to be extremely good. So again, hottest take probably of my reviews. I completely understand if you think I'm living in a crazy world. I want to believe that Dooku Yellow will exist. I hope you do too. 4-star for both Techno Union Transport and Invincible. So let's keep the ball rolling and let's review the next 3 cards together because I think they're all 1-star cards for the same reason as well. In Debt to Crimson Dawn, when attached unit readies, exhausted unless controller pays 2 resources. The problem with this card is it doesn't exhaust when you play it, and why would you play this when you can just play Frozen and Carbonite or You're No Good to Me Dead? So I think In Debt to Crimson Dawn is 1-star. I Have You Now. You get to attack with a vehicle unit, and you get to prevent all damage that would be dealt to it during this attack. It's different, but it's also kind of like Shoot First, and I think Shoot First is almost strictly better. Not very many times are you going to attack into something. Like, it's just a shield, dude. Like, it's a 1-cost, give a vehicle unit a shield. That's 1-star. Heartless Tactics. You get to exhaust a unit and give it -2/-0 for this phase. Then if it has 0 power and isn't the leader, you may return it to its owner's hand. Either just bounce the card or exhaust the card. It's weird that it does both. And again, I think I would just rather play No Good to Me Dead or Waylay here. So again, 1-star. I think all 3 of these cards, there's already a better option for them, and there's no reason for them to see play. And lastly, Cat and Mouse. It's a 3-cost tactic. Exhaust an enemy unit. If you do, ready a friendly unit in the same arena with power equal to or less than that enemy unit. What's kind of cool about this card is it's like an anti-leader card. There are a couple cards that can exhaust leaders, notably No Good to Me Dead, and another popular exhaust effect is Frozen and Carbonite, and that doesn't affect leaders. So Cat and Mouse, the way that I see it being played, wherever you predict your opponent leader to flip, you just have a pretty good unit in that arena. They flip their leader, you exhaust it, and you ready your friendly unit. I think you could see this card be like sided in as like a finisher or something. I don't think it's completely useless. I think it's kind of interesting. I think of this as like an anti-leader card. I think it's a 2-star card. I think it's going to be in a couple sideboards. I think it might show up here and there, but it's not worthless. So 2 stars. And now you know what time it is. We're on to the roundup. So no 5-star cards. That's kind of nice because Yellow Villain's been kind of a pain in the ass since the game first released. I've got about 8 meta-relevant cards. One of these cards, Zygerrian Starhopper, sees a lot of play in Boba Fett, and that's why I like it a lot. You heard my whole rant on Count Dooku. I'm not going to go over it again, but that's why I have the other 2 4-star cards, Techno Union Transport and Invincible. And then 3-star cards, I think it's just weird because I think they're all really, really good cards. It's just that Yellow Villain doesn't want these currently with Django, but Cad Bane likes a lot of these cards. And I just think Cad Bane is worse than Django right now. If Django falls out of favor, I could easily see all these cards start filling in more in the upper echelon. Maybe a couple stay where they're at. So I think I'm just a little too focused on Django, and maybe that's why I think a lot of these really good cards are just like, okay. Cat and Mouse has some potential. And then I think we got 5 really bad cards. I don't see these cards ever seeing play. Unless, caveat, we get some kind of leader that can buff Rampart on turn 1. then Rampart might see play. I just don't see it in set 4. We'll have to reevaluate come next set. So with that, if you liked the video and you watched this far, maybe consider subscribing. Please leave a comment telling me Dooku is bad and you're bad for even suggesting that he'll be good this set. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day and see ya.